morning, Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are continuing our conversations this morning at the Assembly Legislature building as we recognize and we celebrate the life and the service of our first Chief Secretary, Mr. Hochoy Charles. And even though we said goodbye to him yesterday in grand style, I mean, we can continue and we need to continue speaking about him and, you know, just celebrating who he was as a person and all the amazing things that he did. And right now, joining me to speak a bit more is another technical advisor for around the time that Mr. Charles was in office, and that is Dr. Ellis Burris, who is no stranger to us. But a special good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Burris. How are you this morning?
Oh, very well. Thank you for inviting me to at least participate in this very wonderful program where we're celebrating the life of someone who has done excellent for Tobago.
Certainly. Now, I want you to take us back to that first time that you met Mr. Charles. What was that like? What was your first impression? Tell us.
I knew Mr. Charles before I get into the assembly. I used to work at the Water and Sewage Authority down at the Craigal area. And Mr. Charles, I think he was one of those county council representatives the days when Tobago House of Assembly did not exist. And he was surveying the area because he needed water to come around to Golden Lane. So he was looking to see what was happening and how things were going. But, you know, after that, people don't know, Mr. Charles was a member of the Baha'i faith. So we had that strong connectivity. And he always says, you know, the last time I checked with him, which is a while now, he said, Doc, I always have my prayer book in my bag. So Mr. Charles and I have that connection way back before we start working in Works Department. So when I come to the division of infrastructure and the Tobago House of Assembly, I came back from university. The Tobago House of Assembly was in session for probably a few years because I actually started working in 1985 in the Tobago House of Assembly. Mr. Charles was the secretary for works at the time. And, well, you know, with Mr. Charles, Fixing Tobago is his program.
Yes.
And I fall in line with supporting that program on the way forward, up to today. Which that this guy was up to today, because I was just giving that joke about being
lost in the
well,
forest?
not lost, but at least being delayed, because
being delayed.
there was one who is sick. That is for my geography. Behind there is no problem for me to find. I got lost in my backyard. So, it was just that one was ill and I was delayed. We were delayed to ensure that and that is the duty of a person who leads some person into an expedition. You have to ensure that all members of the expedition will be back where in safe condition, where people can be happy to see their loved ones. So it was my duty to stay there to ensure that Mr. Isaac was brought back in good condition to his family.
And of course, I mean, we will have another time where we could talk about that a bit more. But, you know, I want to talk about Mr. Charles in those early days. Sure. You know, as a county council, you mentioned that was your first interaction with him. What was he like? You know, tell me about that man back then.
The man was he was thinking very deeply. That's a man has very deep thoughts, and he don't speak very much at times, especially when he's thinking. He's not talking. He's thinking how he will be able to manage what they can do to ensure that Tobago move in a direction that would be progressive for the entire country. And that is the kind of person that he is. He's a deep thinker, and he will find a solution if there is none. He'll find a way if there is none. And I'll give him the credit of one who is a great leader, who looks out for his people and who is humble enough to ask questions when he doesn't know.
And then, moving on now from, was there any difference between him as a county councillor and moving into the THA to where you had an even closer relationship with him?
Well, from seeing him and then start working with him, people that see seeing somebody and coming and live with them are two different things.
Certainly.
So, when I get into the environment, he knew what some of my fundamental thinking. And therefore, or at least we have the idea of we want to see a progressive humanity. We want to see a Tobago that is developing and going into meet the century's needs. And Mr. Charles, he appears he doesn't allow any moment to pass without he doesn't have a positive input into things. You never, except he's been attacked from a political, which I stay away significantly from politics.
Yes.
But once he's on that progressive mood, he doesn't get too angry at all. And so Mr. Charles and I never really crossed paths in any way to say that we have been, butting heads. But we have been always on that progressive path where we work together. So he will send me to do things. And sometimes, if you're not brave with Mr. Charles, you better don't really go and work with him. Because I'm telling you, I am quiet. But sometimes he will get a little rowdy sometimes. But when he says, okay, I remember him telling me, okay, Doc, you got to go down and there are some people building up a wall down at Pigeon Point. And then I actually have to go and get that wall removed. But now at least it is a situation now that is a very challenging one for the person who owns the land and the Conrado hotel. But Mr. Charles said you have to move that wall because you're going to create more trouble on the beachfront. Well, when I get down there, there was so much passion to keep the wall. Workers went lying on the wall, on the wall. Heavy equipments around to move it. And I said, listen, I called in the police to get to move these people that we can move the wall. I called Mr. Charles. I said, Chief, we're having a problem with this to move the wall. He was just quiet and reserved. He said, what happened, Doc? You can't get the work done? You know that you gotta get it work. When he asked that question, you can't get the work done? Well, I had to get it done. So I got to move in. I called some security personnel, and we got the persons removed. We moved the wall, and things went good thereafter. But he is one who is very brave. And when he decides on something, you kind of have to follow into what he asks to be done. And he really doesn't ask you to do things that might not be very good. Like I remember when I come to the assembly, the secretaries, there was a decision taken by the executive council to dispatch secretaries into the various divisions that were supposed to be under their portfolio. So Charles says, you got to change those locks. First thing you say, change those locks. And I am the engineer in charge of buildings. So, Boris, you got to go change those locks. Well, I go up to the office up at, public health office up at Signal Hill at the time. So, Mrs. Moore, Tasira Moore was the person who was the secretary for health. And her office was supposed to be up there. Well, when you land in an office like that, public servants, some have their political alignment, you're just being attacked. You as a public servant trying to execute something that is required to be done, you would be attacked. And therefore, with that kind of level of attack, you just have to become brave enough to get the work executed. You don't want Mr. Charles to act like you can't get the work done. So when he says that, you got to get it done. So Mrs. Moore got her office, and those who were making war, quiet down.
Was it always that you understood his vision? Were there things that, he said that he wanted done that you didn't quite understand where he was going with it?
Well, one of the things that he always says, listen, government is big business. So, you know, once you say it is business, it means that you have to have a business mode. You have to have things done properly. You got to come to work on time. You know, I understood him most of the time. Well, from the regular public service arrangement, I would understand him. But when he started to go to the political realm, I'm going to follow him in that region because I'm not really interested in the politics. I'm interested in executing the work that he was given to do. And what Mr. Charles is one of the secretaries or the persons who were chief secretaries who, besides handling policies, he actually had his hands in the actual building of Tobago. He doesn't just speak. He acts. Although, you know, Mr. Robinson was a good speaker, he speaks and set up the policies, but the execution process is what Mr. Charles will do. So you know how intimately he's connected to all the things that have been executed on the island.
Now, what was something that was very interesting about his life? That's that he wasn't a man that was educated in terms of tertiary education and that sort of thing, like yourself was. And yet he knew a lot more things than the average man.
That, you see, he has that meditative faculty that really draws on the invisible. So he has a vision because he has that meditative faculty that he has built up over time. Because he's very pensive, he's very thoughtful, he builds on information that he has before, and he builds on what he knows exists. So therefore, you know, he has that ability to see a little bit ahead of those who work with him. Because I remember him when we were down at Works. At least I worked with him twice. He was secretary for Works, and also worked with him as chief secretary. When he was secretary for Works, we worked, you know, down on the foot of Carrington Street there. Mr. Charles really brought out the vision to actually have the Works Division head office built down at Shaw Park. He was the secretary there, pushing that and through his building of that head office down at Shaw Park, I think the Minister of Works at times was in Trinidad, and they came up to visit and see what Works Tobago was getting, and so the Ministry of Works was built where it is now on down in that area. So Mr. Charles is a visionary. He really sees things, and he really wants to see Tobago develop, and you know, he carries that along with him all the time. Even though he's in office or out of office, he wants to see betterment for the island. And you know, that is a branding that not many people have. He doesn't give up at all. He is a person that is persistent, is indefatigable, he's indomitable with respect to his thought, and he will make sure that it is being executed as quickly as possible. I remember again, one of the good things of Mr. Charles is that again, I remember when Tobago had challenges for water. Mr. Charles had the vision. There's Earthwork Technology Limited was a company, I think, that came to the island to deal with the water, to locate water underground. Mr. Charles, that company was told that if you don't find any water, you will not get paid. So all the drills, all that they're doing, they have to make sure they find water. So when they found the water, because we found water in Backlet, you see the wells in Backlet? We have wells in down at Plymouth, I think there was one down in Lowlands area. It is Mr. Charles who got those wells done. They were capped. The water was found and they were capped and left there until WASA come now and started using it. But Mr. Charles' vision was to ensure that the entire island was supplied with adequate water. And that was the vision he has. And I worked with the company. I remember it was a situation where Mr. Charles had worked that water company right up to the time near to the to the election. And what has happened? Mr. Charles lose the election, and then the company was waiting for their money. But Mr. Charles make sure they got paid. He is that honest. He makes sure that they got their money for the work that they did. He's that committed to whatsoever he's doing or plan to do.
Were you ever at all disappointed that you were not able to continue some of the things that he wanted to do? Because I know that there was so much that he wanted for Tobago.
Well, the ring-bang water.
The ring-bang water.
Well, you know, that was a program. I remember I had when that ring-bang thing came into being, Mr. Charles, you know, I was the anchor to a certain degree to have things executed done at work. So Mr. Charles came down to the meeting and he started. I remember one man walked out of the meeting. So Charles said, okay, let you go. He doesn't have the vision to see. Let him ride out into the sunset. So we worked to get sure the ring bang program took place. I remember we bringing in there were some stages that were supposed to be built, and our works department did all that. Then we collected the plyboard back, returned the plyboard back to the storage, and some people was trying to steal plyboard anyway, but you know, Mr. Charles didn't really pay attention, but I as the accounting officer had to make sure that things were done in a particular way. And you know, I don't think they have treated the symbol that Mr. Charles has put in place. I don't think anybody or most people don't understand what the symbol was. As he always probably explained to me, if I could remember clearly, is that there's a kind of a cage, a triangular cage to the back of the ring bang sign. That is like a cage of slavery. And the man is out of the cage, so it's a liberation sign to a certain degree. So the man is out of the cage, and the symbol is up there. The person who actually put that symbol up was a man they call Tallyman. I can't remember his Tallyman. He used to work down at URP. He put that ring bang sign. We went and we actually, as the engineer, look at what was required. We put down the bolts, holding down bolts, so it is well in place there. Yes. It cannot move, but it's there still. That it could be refurbished and rejuvenated, but it is there. It's for whosoever is in authority to take the step forward to ensure that it is being remain a symbol of the ring bang operation. And
when that monument was completed, I mean, what was his reaction when he saw it?
He was happy. It was an unfoldment of one of his dreams. And then we were supposed to have the ring bang water up at on the main ridge where the water is of diamond, diamond quality, good water, excellent water. And up to now we haven't gotten Tobago to be selling water as yet because I don't know, they still fall short of what some persons probably want, but the water is there in abundance. If you want to set that water supply up and get it for the sale of water to bring revenue to Tobago, it can still be done because the water hasn't gone anywhere. The water is still there.
There were several things that were announced yesterday about how we can honor Mr. Charles and his legacy and so on. He was given that Medal of Honor posthumously, which he vehemently refused while he was alive. There was the renaming of the Calder Hall Administrative Complex, the idea to set up this library for him. You know, what do you think about those things that are being done, and should there be more?
Well, I think the Assembly has taken an excellent step to win what they have done so far. At least any further unfoldment will have to have consultation with the family. But I think as things unfold, they can at least do something more, maybe set up actually he's the one who started the scholarship fund for Tobago. So maybe you could even put that fund in situation, because the point remains that fund has created so much assistance for persons who wanted to educate themselves, and people who doesn't have the amount of money that is required. Actually, when it was done, I think when I went to study to do my PhD, the full scholarship fund wasn't in operation yet, but Mr. Denun was there as the chairman, because he's the last chairman of the Tobago House of Assembly, and Mr. Charles is the first chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. So, as Mr. Charles came in, he just magnified and ensured that more persons were involved in getting educated under the program. And I think he has done excellent so far. We got some medical doctors and some other persons who were required to enable the process to go forward and for the development of Tobago. Once the which the present THA recognized, and it is still being maintained, more persons can be, and we can get more professionals coming back to the island to deliver service to the island.
Do you think that we can still do something from that whole ring bank situation? And I'm not talking maybe I'm not too sure, but what can we do in terms of turning that around so that it doesn't remain that stain on Mr. Charles' legacy, as it has been for the last 24 years?
Well, what I think can be done, the first thing is to restore the symbol. And then you have probably like a play park up there to a certain degree, so persons can go and walk in the park and enjoy. Children maybe have swings or little roller coasters, etc., in the area to make the area a little bit more alive and to bring the spirit back as best we can. But so that the first thing you have to probably sandblast the statue, and then you add the paint and then you start developing the environment around it, benches, little tables and things that people could go and sit and probably eat and have a and then you could have little trinkets, and then probably as a person persons may come to visit, not only probably they can get some money, like they were giving out tokens yesterday. They could have those tokens probably to give out to persons as they come to visit and to enjoy the scene from Signal Hill, where the Ring Bank sign is presently located.
All right. Well, Dr. Burris, we are getting ready to wrap up this interview. It was such a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about Mr. Charles back in those days. Lots of wonderful stories. And I know we barely got into them.
We only tipped the iceberg of some of the things, but Mr. Charles is a man that, the more you think of him, the more knowledge you'll get out of what he has done. And I think all that the THA is doing presently to bring some honor to his name, I think it's a great exercise that is being done, and we hope that it will be continued, and the scholarship fund that could be also named a Hochoy Charles Scholarship Fund, because Tobago House of Assembly never have enough money to execute the projects and programs that we want. And I always tell the Ministry of Finance, when I used to go for discussion, every item is a first line item on this Tobago House of Assembly, because we have lagged so far behind our development that we must consider funding the programs and projects for Tobago to enable us to come up to a level as equal with Trinidad, not walking behind Trinidad, but walking side by side with Trinidad.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burris.
Thanks.
And viewers, we've got a little bit more coming up for you on GMT, so please don't go anywhere as we continue to remember and celebrate the life of Mr. Hochoy Charles, our first Chief Secretary.
Tobago Update.